Hi, in this video we're going to talk about Greek declension, specifically the second declension of Attic Greek declension. So second declension is primarily masculine and neuter. So remember the first one was composed of feminine nouns, so it's going to be masculine and neuter. There are some feminine nouns, but they're a minority in this declension, just like the masculine nouns are a minority in the first declension. Feminine nouns will be a minority in this one. So what we're going to see here is because we have this these primarily masculine nouns, or I guess masculine and neuter, the masculine ones are going to distinguish between nominative and vocative, at least in the singular. However, actually, I guess I should say all of them are going to, all but the neuter are going to distinguish between the masculine and the, or the nominative and the vocative in the singular, but on the plural. All of the masculine ones. So hodos is feminine, and it will also distinguish between those. But remember, the feminine ones are the minority here. So going quickly through the endings, this one is anthropos, which means man, and hodos. This means road. And so we'll go through this one here, where the accent is not on the end, and then we'll go through the one where the accent is on the end. So we got anthropos, anthrope, anthropon, anthropou. And remember, the accent has to shift if you know your accentuation rules, because this is a long vowel, whereas these ones aren't. And anthropoi. And then anthropoi, anthropos, anthropon, anthropois. So remember, the dative will always have a iota or iota subscript. This is a very common ending for genitive plural, so in all of the declensions. But another thing to remember here is normally this would be long, but at the end of the word oi, just like I, is going to be short, with one exception. So there's one exception to the rule that diphthongs are long, and we'll go over that when we go over verbs. Apart from that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just have to memorize these endings. Remember here, this was seen in the masculine, feminine, or masculine first declension nouns. So that's pretty easy to understand. Here, when we have the accent on the last syllable, we're going to see exactly the same thing, except for we're going to see a circumflex in the genitive and dative, as it's on the last syllable here. Notice here the accent doesn't shift to the last syllable when it's not in the nominative and accusative on the last syllable in this genitive plural like it does with the first declension. But when it is already on that syllable, it will, as a genitive, remember all genitives and datives do this in second declension, it will be a circumflex. So as far as neuter nouns go, they're very similar. The only difference is that nominative, vocative, and accusative are all the same form. In the singular, that's on, and in the plural, that's a short alpha a. So doron and dora. And then these genitive and dative forms are exactly the same. So doron, doru, doro, dora, doron, dorois. So that would be exactly the same, and that's easy to remember. So if you know how this works, all you have to do, all you have to do is remember this right here. And this is also the same as the accusative form in the masculine and feminine forms of the form of the declension. So this one itself should not even be very hard to remember. It's just a short alpha here at the end of the word in the neuter nouns. Next, we're going to talk about the Attic declension and contracted nouns. So these are a little bit different. So the Attic declension is the result of a second declension noun that's undergone some linguistic processes. So this is in other dialects laos, which means people. Sorry, doron means gift. I like to translate these for people, even though it's not strictly necessary to remember the endings. But this means people as in like a group of people or something. So like the English people, or all the peoples of Europe, something like that. So what we'll see here is that nominative and vocative are the same form, so that's handy. We're not going to drop this. We're not going to put an epsilon there or anything. But we have this in the singular. You have this sort of stem, and we have a process. Actually, I guess this is not really what it is in Attic Greek, but it's more like an underlying laos or laos, and we have quantitative metathesis, which means that the length of this gets switched over here, and so this becomes an epsilon, and then this becomes long, and so we get the regular consonantal part of the ending that we would expect, just with a leo stem, and so we get the sigma here, the nu here, nothing because there's not a consonantal portion of the ending in the genitive singular. It's just that o or omicron epsilon, and then that sort of gets, that's already long, but it sort of gets lengthened by analogy to omega. And then here that this iota subscript was originally probably a consonantal sort of Y sound, and so it's stuck around as well. And then here in the plural, we get the consonantal form. Again, the normal ending would be omicron iota, and so the iota can be pronounced sort of consonantally, and so we tack that on. And the accusative ends in a sigma. The genitive ends in a noon, and then nu, and then the dative ends in its normal forms ends in an omicron, iota, sigma, and so we scrap that vowel and treat this as a consonantal form and make that a subscript, and then we keep the sigma. So just remember that for this, let me erase all that. What we're doing actually is we're changing the stem to let all by quantitative metathesis, which is sort of shifting around the lengths of vowels. And then we're adding on whatever portions of the original declension's endings were consonants, and we're including iota as a consonant. And where we include it, we'll include it as a iota subscript. So we're counting that as a consonantal Y sound, a Y sound, and when we include it as a iota subscript. And then this brings us to another sort of funky version of the second declension, which again shouldn't be too hard to remember. It's essentially an underlying noos, and we sort of contract the omicrons together. And so anywhere where the ending itself would have had an omicron in it, as long as the omicron didn't contain a iota, as long as it also didn't contain a iota, we'll replace these two with the diphthong u with the circumflex, and anywhere where the ending contained an omega, we'll replace this one with just the omega of the ending. That accounts for this one and this one. And then the last groups to account for are this one and this one, which is anywhere that the ending had a iota, we will just also delete the first, or sort of contract into, because it's actually sort of being gulped up by this one. We will get rid of that first omicron by contracting it with the next one, and then we'll give it this circumflex accent here. So we've got noi and noise. So this is nous, nu, nun, nu, noi, noi, nous, non, and noise. And notice that these two forms, although they are morphologically distinct, are their external form is actually exactly the same. So here are my references if you want to go check out the actual tables that I got from Wikipedia. That should be helpful to you, but I think that the second declension really should not be all that difficult.